targeting Kinnan. Triggers again Mystic Remora and the 2 Rhystic Studies. Welcome to Cardboard Content, where we aim to develop our skills and grow the competitive Commander community. Hey guys, it's me, Benedict. Thank you for joining us on round 4 at Dockside Duels at Darkside. If you like pancakes, we got stacks. If you're trigger happy, we got triggers for you. I mean, there was too many Rhystic Study triggers, Mystic Remora triggers. I'm sick of triggers now because all the editing. Before we jump into the video, it would do a whole lot of help if you could consider subscribing. Trying to get on that monetization bandwagon, and your subscriptions would do a lot of help. I also have playlists for you guys to watch. I have 3 other videos of this series if you guys haven't watched those as well. Without further ado, here's our game. Starting off, we have Albert in our upper left hand corner playing Tymna Kraum. Then Casey's back with Kinnan, and then Weston with First Sliver, and Lexi with Najeela. Like I said, Albert's first, but Casey, Weston, and Lexi pre-game with a Gemstone Cavern. Albert thought he was going first, but looks like he's going last. Albert starts us off with a Tundra into a Lotus Petal, and passes turn to Casey. Casey plays a Yavimaya Coast into a Talisman of Curiosity into a Springleaf Drum. Weston's turn. He plays a Flooded Strand, cracks it, and plays a Underground Sea into a first turn Dalthy Footwalker. Lexi responds with a Vampiric Tutor. Then on Lexi's turn, she plays a Godless Shrine into a Mana Crypt, and then plays a Rhystic Study. Albert responds with a Red Elemental Blast. We move to Albert's turn. Albert plays Otawara. He plays a Mystic Remora, and then passes turn to Casey. Casey plays his commander, Kinnan, then a Rhystic Study, triggering Mystic Remora. Then plays a Birds of Paradise, and passes turn to Weston. Weston's turn, he plays Tundra and his own Rhystic Study, triggering Rhystic Study and Mystic Remora. Lexi's turn, plays a Dockside Extortionist, triggering 2 Rhystic Studies and netting 5 treasures. She plays her commander, Najeela, triggering both Rhystic Studies, but pays for Casey's. Passes turn to Albert. Albert pays for Mystic Remora, plays Arid Mesa, cracks it for a Badland, and then plays Phantasmal Image, triggering both Rhystic Studies. They both draw. Albert chooses Dockside Extortionist. With the ETB on the stack, Lexi cracks a treasure for Worldly Tutor and triggers Mystic Remora and the 2 Rhystic Studies. Responds to the draw triggers by casting a Deadly Rollick targeting Kinnan. Triggers again Mystic Remora and the 2 Rhystic Studies. Lexi pays for one of the Rhystic Studies, Casey's. Albert and Weston draw. Deadly Rollick resolves, taking out Kinnan. The 2 Rhystic Studies resolve, and Albert's Mystic Remora resolves. Worldly Tutor resolves, getting a Grim Hireling. Albert's Dockside finally resolves and nets 5 treasures. Casey's turn, plays a Rejuvenating Spring, and casts his commander again, Kinnan. Triggers Rhystic Study. Albert responds to the draw trigger by casting Orcish Bowmaster, and then triggers the 2 Rhystic Studies again. He lets both of them draw. Orcish Bowmaster resolves. ETB targets Najeela. Weston draws from his Rhystic Study trigger. Bowmaster triggers again and takes out Najeela. Kinnan resolves. Casey plays Spellskite, triggers Rhystic Study, and pays with Springleaf Drum. Then casts Mox Amber, triggering Rhystic and Mystic. Your floating mana goes to Weston's Rhystic. Albert draws. Weston's turn. He plays a Lotho, triggering Rhystic Study. He doesn't pay. Triggers Orcish Bowmaster, targets Dockside Extortionist. Weston plays a Plateau. Weston plays a Soul Ring, triggering Lotho, Mystic, and Rhystic. Albert draws from Mystic Remora. Casey draws, triggering Orcish Bowmaster, which targets Dockside Extortionist again. Weston plays Mox Opal, triggers Rhystic and Mystic again. Albert draws from Mystic. Casey draws, triggers Orcish Bowmaster. Albert targets and pings Lotho. Weston passes turn to Lexi. Lexi rolls for Mana Crypt, successful, then plays Grim Hireling, triggering 2 Rhystic Studies. Albert targets Kinnan. Casey uses Spellskite's ability to redirect the 1 damage to it, losing 2 life. Second Rhystic triggers. Albert targets Kinnan again, and he activates Spellskite's ability again, losing 2 life. Grim Hireling resolves, and then Lexi passes turn to Albert. Albert's upkeep lets Mystic Remora go, plays Grand Abolisher, triggers Rhystic Studies again. Weston draws. Albert gets to ping with Bowmaster, targets Kinnan again, and Casey responds by paying 2 life and deflecting to Spellskite, and does it again with the second draw trigger to Spellskite. With Grand Abolisher still in a stack, Casey responds with Rapid Hybridization, targeting Orcish Bowmaster. Rhystic Study triggers. Weston draws. Orcish Bowmaster triggers, targeting Dauthi Voidwalk. Rapid Hybridization resolves and turns Orcish Bowmaster into a 3/3 Frog Lizard. Still with Grand Abolisher on the stack, Weston sacrifices Dauthi Voidwalker to cast the newly exiled Orcish Bowmaster, triggers Casey's Rhystic Study. Weston pays with Soul Ring. Orcish Bowmaster resolves. ETB, he targets Phantasmal Image. Weston now casts Snap, targeting Spellskite, which triggers Rhystic Study. Casey draws, and Orcish Bowmaster targets Albert. Snap resolves, bouncing Spellskite. Then Weston casts Path of Exile, targeting Kinnan, which triggers Rhystic Study. Weston pays. Kinnan gets exiled, and Grand Abolisher resolves. Albert casts Cabal Ritual, triggering both Rhystic Studies and paying for them both. Then plays Necropotence, triggering both Rhystic Studies. Albert doesn't pay. On Casey's draw, Orcish Bowmaster triggers and targets Grand Abolisher, pinging it for 1. Necropotence resolves. Albert activates Necropotence for 20. He moves to his end step, puts the cards into his hand, and then sculpts down to 7. Casey's turn. He casts Kinnan again for 6 mana, triggers Rhystic Study, and pays. He casts Mana Crypt, triggers Rhystic Study, and pays. Then casts Trophy Mage, triggering Rhystic Study again, and he pays for that too. Tutors up a Mirage Mirror, casts Lotus Petal, Rhystic Study triggers, and he pays. Then Casey casts Transmute Artifact, triggers Rhystic Study, doesn't pay this time. Weston responds with Pact of Negation, targeting Transmute Artifact, triggers Rhystic Study. Casey draws. Orcish Bowmaster triggers, he targets Kinnan. Pact of Negation resolves, countering Transmute Artifact. Then Casey proceeds to cast Basalt Monolith, triggering Rhystic Study. Weston draws with Rhystic Study. Albert responds to Basalt Monolith with Force of Negation, pitching Force of Will, triggers both Rhystic Studies. Casey declines his draw, Weston takes his draw. Then Casey passes turn to Weston. Weston's turn, upkeep, he pays for his pack trigger, plays an Exotic Orchard, then casts Demonic Tutor. Rhystic Study triggers. Casey draws, triggers Orcish Bowmaster, which pings Kinnan. Albert responds with a Swan Song, targeting Demonic Tutor. Both Rhystic Study triggers. Albert doesn't pay. Casey passes the draw. Weston draws. Then Weston responds with Flusterstorm. Triggers Rhystic Study. Casey draws, which triggers Orcish Bowmaster, and Weston targets Kinnan, moving him to the command zone. Demonic Tutor finally resolved. Weston casts Mox Diamond, triggers Rhystic Study. Orcish Bowmaster triggers from Casey drawing and targets Casey's Bird of Paradise. Then Weston casts Underworld Breach, triggers Rhystic Study. Casey draws. Orcish Bowmaster triggers and pings Albert's Grand Abolisher. Breach resolves. Weston casts Lion's Eye Diamond, triggering Rhystic Study. Casey draws. Orcish Bowmaster triggers and targets Grand Abolisher again. Lion's Eye Diamond resolves. Weston sacks Lion's Eye Diamond, discarding his hand and getting 3 white mana. Weston casts Grand Abolisher from his graveyard, triggers Rhystic Study. Grand Abolisher resolves. Under Grand Abolisher's protection, access to Underworld Breach, Lion's Eye Diamond, a tutor to get Brain Freeze. Weston proceeds to target himself with Brain Freeze to mill himself and eventually cast Thassa's Oracle with no library. Congratulations, Weston. That was a crazy video for me to edit, so it was probably a crazy video for you guys to watch. So many cards were drawn, so many interaction points. Kinnan kept making attempts to win. Albert made so many attempts to win. End game summation for me would be threat assessment. Albert used a early red elemental blast to counter a Rhystic study. Yes, Rhystic studies are very painful, but Kinnan was next, and he had 2 or 3 artifacts on deck, and all he needed to do was cast his commander. That, from my perspective, was more of a threat than someone drawing a few cards here and there. Maybe a 3rd Rhystic study on the board could have helped with a bit more interaction as well. Good job to Casey throwing out all those extra spells just to lure out a counter spell. You got it, but unfortunately there was way too much interaction at that point. And good job to you, Weston, to slowly building up your board state, getting that mana, getting the cards, and eventually pulling out that win. If you liked this event and want to see more, or compete in some, topdeck.gg. What is Top Deck Championship Series, you ask? It's a Commander tournament circuit that runs now till August 2024. You can compete in a tournament registered with Top Deck Championship Series. Your accumulation of points will vary in accordance with the event tier that you participate in. Find these tournaments on topdeck.gg. In late August, the top 64 players will qualify for a Top Deck Invitational and will compete for a prize of over $11,000. No tournaments in the area? Well, ask your local LGS to join as a partner to the series and host their own events, which will add to the still growing prize pool. For more information, go to topdeck.gg. Also linked down below is our social medias. It does a lot of help for support. If you're looking other ways to support us, you could be the backbone of this channel. Our tier 2 Patreon, Aaron at now 2 times, and Big Yoda. And now our top tier 3 patrons, Wong at 4 times, Matt at 3 times, and Albert at 3 times. This is a great way to support the channel, patreon.com/cardboardcontent. Please do consider joining us. See you guys in the next round before semifinals.